First came silence. A silence so deep, even the stars seemed afraid to shine. For centuries, the galaxy had been filled with the constant noise of human movement, ships moving in and out of trade lanes, colonies sending signals, stations filled with chatter, and voices echoing across the stars. But now, there was nothing. No calls, no trade signals, no light traffic of freighters that once crossed the skies. It was as if humanity had simply vanished overnight. The Council noticed it first through missing reports. A ship had gone to a human colony to collect supplies, but it returned empty. Not because the humans had refused, but because no one was there. The entire colony stood intact. Homes were still built strong. Farms were still green with food ready to harvest. Machines were still running. Yet, not a single human was found. The station lights blinked on and off, waiting for workers who never came back. At first, the Council dismissed it. Perhaps humans had moved deeper into their colonies. Perhaps they were hiding or planning some strategy. But then, more reports arrived. Merchant stations, once crowded with human traders, now stood silent. The markets were full of goods, food, water, metals, technology, but no hands were there to sell them. Ships that had been left on docking platforms stayed still, untouched, as though abandoned in a hurry. Whispers spread through alien worlds. Some said humans had finally collapsed, unable to carry the weight of survival. Others claimed they had hidden themselves, preparing for something the galaxy could not yet understand. The word Deathworlders returned to council halls again, spoken with nervousness and fear. Humans had always been different. They had come from a dangerous world, a planet that forged them in storms, fire, and endless struggle. They were hard to kill, harder to control, and impossible to break. Now they were gone. And that was more terrifying than when they were present. Council meetings grew longer and more tense. Ambassadors from many races demanded answers. Why had the humans disappeared? Was it war? Was it disease? Or had they discovered something so powerful that they no longer needed the rest of the galaxy? No one knew. All they had were empty colonies, empty cities, empty homes. Entire families had vanished without leaving even a trace of where they had gone. Scouts were sent deeper into human space. What they found only increased the fear. On one planet, a great human city stood tall, its towers gleaming under the sun. Roads were clean, homes untouched, but the people were missing. Even food sat uneaten on tables, as if humanity had walked away in the middle of a meal. On another world, a spaceport filled with hundreds of ships stood in silence. The ships were fueled, ready to launch, but no pilot ever came to take them. The silence itself became a weapon. Aliens began to fear traveling near human space. Traders avoided those routes, afraid of what they might see. Stories grew wild. Humans had ascended into beings of energy. Humans had fled beyond the edge of the galaxy. Humans had built an empire in the dark where no one could follow. None of these stories were proven, but every whisper made the council more uneasy. One admiral, returning from an exploration mission, described what he had seen with trembling words. "It felt wrong," he said. "The planets are alive, but the people are gone. It is like walking through a grave where the bodies are missing." Still, the council did not act. Some believed humans would return. Others believed they were gone forever. But deep down, every alien ruler felt something they would not admit: regret. They had mocked humanity, pushed them aside, treated them as tools and soldiers, but never as equals. And now, when they needed answers, when they needed human strength, there was no one left to ask. Then came the first true sign. On the edge of human space, an old satellite suddenly came alive. It had been silent for years, its metal body drifting slowly. Then it activated, its lights blinking, its signal pulsing across the void. The council intercepted the transmission. It was short. Only one line, repeated again and again in every language the galaxy knew. It was short. Only one line, repeated again and again in every language the galaxy knew. "You will remember this day." The word sent shivers through every ambassador, every captain, every citizen. For the first time in many centuries, the galaxy felt small. The council chambers grew quiet. Not a single voice dared to speak. Everyone knew that humans had not been destroyed. They had chosen to leave. And they had left with purpose. The fear spread faster than truth. Worlds began to wonder what humanity was preparing. Were they building an empire in the dark? Were they crafting weapons that the galaxy had never seen? No one could know for sure. But the message was clear: the humans had not forgotten. And they wanted the galaxy to remember too. Some alien leaders demanded action. Fleets should move into human space, they argued. The colonies should be searched, the humans hunted down. But the admirals refused. They had seen the silence, and they feared what they might wake if they pushed too far. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Still, not a single human was seen. The silence of their absence was worse than any war. It was a waiting game, and the Council knew it. Humanity had vanished, but their shadow stretched across every system, every world, every corner of the galaxy. Late one evening, in the grand chamber of the Council, one ambassador stood and spoke the words all of them were already thinking. "It is too late," he said. "Too late to fix it. Too late to bring them back." And for the first time in living memory, the galaxy understood what it meant to lose humanity. Not through battle, not through fire, but through silence. A silence that promised something greater, something hidden, something terrifying. And as the last broadcast echoed across the stars, "You will remember this day," the galaxy knew one truth. They would indeed remember. And they would regret. They begged for peace, but peace never came. Long before the silence spread, humans had stood in the grand chambers of the Council. Their envoys had spoken with steady voices, asking only for fairness, fair trade, equal rights, a chance to grow without being crushed under endless taxes and regulations. The other species had listened, but they had not cared. To them, humans were newcomers, dangerous creatures from a death world, strong but reckless. Instead of allies, the Council saw them as tools. Humans had been used in wars not their own. They were placed on the front lines, praised when they bled, and forgotten when they died. Their ships were taxed heavily, their colonies pushed aside whenever richer races demanded resources. And when humans protested, the Council gave them words, never action. Promises filled the air like smoke, sweet at first, but gone before they could be held. Among the alien rulers, some mocked humanity openly. "They are loud," one ambassador once said, "but they will always obey. They need us more than we need them." Others called them opportunists, survivors who would do anything for profit. No one believed the humans could walk away. They were too entangled in the galactic system. They traded too much, fought too much, depended too much. Or so the Council thought. But even back then, there were warnings. Human leaders spoke with frustration. They pointed out how many times they had stood in those chambers, how many times they had asked for fairness. "We will not beg forever," one human envoy said in a meeting recorded long ago. The words were ignored. The Council laughed quietly after the humans left the hall. Now, as the silence grew, those recordings resurfaced. In the archives of forgotten speeches, in the corners of Council memory, the old warnings played again. Envoys with tired eyes, soldiers with broken voices, traders begging for fair treatment. The Council had turned its back then. Now, they listened, but only because the voices were gone. Whispers spread across alien worlds. Could it be that the humans had left because of betrayal? That the Council's arrogance had driven them away? Some leaders denied it, saying humans were too weak to make such a move. But those who had fought beside humans in wars remembered differently. They remembered humans holding the line when others fled. They remembered humans surviving battles that should have destroyed them. They remembered that humans always found a way to endure. As the colonies remained empty and the trade routes stayed silent, the truth became harder to ignore. This was not an accident. This was not collapse. This was choice. Humanity had chosen to leave. On a quiet night within the archives of the Council, a worker discovered something hidden. It was an old message, encrypted but clearly human in origin. It was not addressed to one race, but to the Council as a whole. The message was simple, written in basic words as though it were meant to be understood by all. You promised fairness. You gave nothing. You promised peace. You gave war. You promised respect. You gave only scorn. We will not beg again. The worker who uncovered the message froze. His hands trembled as he carried it to the chamber. When the Council members read it, the room grew silent. The weight of the words pressed down on every ruler, every ambassador. For the first time, they understood the anger that had burned beneath the calm faces of human envoys. It was not sudden. It had been building for decades. Every insult, every broken promise, every unfair law, they had all added up. And now, the result was clear. Humanity had abandoned the Council. Ships were sent again to human colonies, but the result never changed. Empty cities. Silent homes. Food left uneaten, machines still running. And no people. The galaxy's greatest workers, its fiercest soldiers, its most unpredictable survivors, were gone. Fear spread like fire. If humanity had left in anger, where had they gone? What were they building in the dark? Would they come back? And if they did, would it be for peace, or for vengeance? The Council could not answer. All they had were regrets. Regrets that came too late. Regrets that filled the silence like ghosts. And as they sat in their halls, arguing without solutions, a thought returned again and again to every leader who had ever ignored a human plea. What if they had listened? What if peace had truly come? But peace had never come. And now, perhaps, it never would. 1,000 worlds once lit by human life now stood in silence. What had once been the busiest trade routes in the galaxy turned into stretches of empty space, with only drifting satellites and silent stations left behind. The Council ordered fleets of scouts to travel deeper, to map every human colony and discover what had truly happened. Each mission returned with the same story, and each story carried the same fear. On the first planet visited, the city was perfect. Towers rose high into the clouds, their glass walls shining beneath a bright sun. Streets stretched wide and clean, machines stood powered and waiting, and homes remained in place. But not a single human voice echoed there. Shops were stocked, doors left open, even lights were still on inside some buildings. It looked as if people had gone to sleep and never woken again. The scouts searched every street, every corner, every shadow, but the people were gone. Another team visited a colony known for its spaceport. Hundreds of ships stood lined along metal platforms, their hulls polished and their engines fueled. The docking lights still blinked, showing ready for launch. But no captain ever came. Not one crew, not one mechanic, not one traveler. The air was heavy with the sound of humming machines and nothing else. The scouts walked through it as though they had entered a graveyard. Across several other worlds, the story repeated itself. Human technology remained. Crops grew. Power flowed. But the people had vanished. Not one dead body was found. Not one sign of violence. Not even a single farewell carved into walls. The humans had simply walked away. The council chambers grew restless. Reports piled high, each one more unsettling than the last. Ambassadors argued endlessly. Some demanded that fleets push deeper to uncover the truth, even if it meant tearing apart every abandoned city. Others warned against it, saying that the silence itself was a warning, that disturbing what humans had left behind would bring disaster. Whispers among the common citizens grew louder. Traders, miners, workers, ordinary beings who had once worked beside humans, spoke of the emptiness with dread. They remembered the resilience of humankind, the way they could endure storms and rebuild from ashes. For such a people to abandon their homes, it could only mean one thing: they had found something greater, something worth leaving everything behind. The council tried to calm the panic. Public announcements were made, claiming that humans were only reorganizing, that they would return soon. But no one believed the words. Every new discovery only proved the opposite. The humans had left, and they had done it by choice. One scout mission brought back something different, something more disturbing than silence. On the far edge of human territory, deep in the ruins of an orbital station, a signal pulsed. At first, the team thought it was a distress call, some old beacon left on by accident. But when they decoded it, the message became clear. It was not a call for help. It was a direction. Coordinates, flashing again and again, pointing to a region of space uncharted and hidden beyond the maps of the Council. The Council grew anxious. Should they follow the coordinates? Was it a trap? Or was it an invitation? The debate stretched for hours, for days, for weeks. Some leaders argued that it was humanity's way of showing where they had gone, perhaps even a chance to reconnect. Others whispered that it was a warning, a way of saying, "Do not follow." The truth could not be decided. In the end, fear kept them from acting. No ships were sent to those coordinates. They remained locked away in council records, sealed under layers of security, as if the council itself was afraid to know what lay at the end. Yet rumors spread anyway. Traders claimed they had seen strange lights in the far distance of uncharted space, ships of unfamiliar design moving silently through the void. No one could prove it, but the stories carried weight. They spoke of vessels larger than any council fleet, glowing faintly as if alive, watching but never approaching. Everywhere, fear turned into regret. Old recordings of humans resurfaced, smiles during negotiations, laughter on trade stations, bravery on the battlefield. Many who once mocked them now spoke softly of their absence. Without humans, the galaxy felt smaller, colder, emptier. They had brought noise, energy, and unpredictability. Without them, the stars seemed less alive. And still, the silence held. No answers came. Only the beacon remained, its coordinates glowing in the darkness like a secret too dangerous to reveal. The council could not agree on what to do. To follow would risk war with something unseen. To ignore would leave the galaxy forever haunted by questions. In the end, they chose the path of waiting. But waiting did not end the fear. It only made it worse. In the hearts of every leader, every ambassador, and every citizen, one thought remained. The humans had not been defeated. They had not fallen. They had chosen to leave. And whatever they had chosen, it was beyond the reach of the council. The silence stretched on, but deep within it, something pulsed. Something unseen. Something that promised the galaxy had not heard the last of humanity. The first ship appeared without sound. It came without warning, gliding out of the void at the edge of council space. The vessel was sleek, dark, and unlike anything seen before, yet its design carried hints that could not be mistaken. Human hands had built it. The council had been watching for signs of life, scanning every corner of the abandoned territories. When the ship appeared, alarms rang across star systems. Fleets scrambled, defenses were raised, but the ship did nothing. It hovered on the border, silent and unmoving, as though it had come only to watch. Through the vast lenses of orbital stations, the details became clearer. The hull shimmered with strange energy, layered with designs far beyond current technology. There were no identification codes, no signals, no attempts to communicate. It was as if the ship wanted to be seen, but not understood. The admirals held back their fleets, unsure of what would happen if they engaged. Memories of the empty human colonies weighed heavily on their minds. No one wanted to be the first to test what humanity had become. Hours turned into days, and still the ship remained. It never moved closer, never moved away. It simply watched. Entire fleets hovered opposite it, waiting for action, but none came. The longer it stayed, the more fear spread among the crew. Men and women whispered that perhaps there were no humans inside, that the ship itself was alive, controlled by something more advanced than any pilot. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the ship vanished. No jump signature, no warp trail, no engine burst. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone, swallowed by the stars. The council chamber fell into chaos. Some ambassadors cried out that it was a test. Others shouted that humanity had returned and was now stronger than ever. Fear clashed with anger. Should they prepare for war? Or should they seek peace before it was too late? But before the arguments could settle, reports came again. Admirals swore that the same ship, or another just like it, had appeared near another border, this time closer to the core of council space. It stayed for a single hour, silent and unmoving, and then it too disappeared. Every time it appeared, it was the same. Watching. Waiting. Never speaking. Never attacking. Whispers spread like fire among the people. They are testing us, some said. They are hunting us, others claimed. No one knew for certain, but the fear was undeniable. Entire fleets refused to leave dock without orders. Traders closed their routes, fearing they would be the next to see the silent ship. One admiral, shaken and pale, swore that the vessel had followed him. His fleet had turned back toward council space, and at every jump, the strange ship had been there too, always just beyond reach. He described it as a shadow, silent, unblinking, patient. The council demanded answers, but there were none. The ship left no traces, no evidence, only the memory of its presence. Still, the message was clear. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity was watching. For the first time in its long history, the Council felt powerless. Against the silence, against the shadows, against the unknown, all their fleets, all their laws, all their power meant nothing. They could only wait. And in that waiting, fear grew deeper. For every time the ship appeared, it was as though humanity whispered a reminder, "We are still here. We have not forgotten. We are not finished." The humans had left, but their shadow remained. Everywhere across the galaxy, fragments of their presence began to surface. On forgotten trading stations, crates of advanced tools appeared, built with designs no one had seen before. Weapons found their way into the black markets, sleek, silent, and terrifyingly efficient. They were undeniably human, yet they were far beyond anything the Council had ever allowed them to create. Merchants whispered of ships drifting in uncharted systems, their hulls glowing faintly, their movements impossibly precise. No crew was ever seen, but the ships moved with purpose, as if guided by an unseen hand. Every rumor added weight to the fear already gripping the galaxy. Humanity was not gone. Humanity had only stepped into the dark. The Council grew desperate to keep order. They tried to silence the merchants, to block the flow of new technology, but it was too late. Alien factions began fighting each other over scraps of human invention. Fleets clashed in shadow wars, each side hoping to claim a piece of whatever the humans had left behind. One Council patrol discovered the aftermath of such a conflict. A battlefield stretched across the stars, wreckage drifting endlessly. Dozens of alien ships, reduced to fragments, burned slowly as their systems died. The strange part was not that a battle had taken place, it was how it had ended. Every destroyed vessel had been cut with perfect precision. Not blasted apart with lasers, not ripped by missiles. Each ship looked as though invisible blades had sliced through them in silence. There were no survivors, no escape pods, no distress calls. Only wreckage, floating like broken bones in the void. The patrol captain, shaken by the sight, sent his report back to the Council. His words carried a weight no one could ignore. This was not war. This was execution. Rumors grew wilder. Some said humans had built weapons so powerful they no longer needed fleets to fight wars. Others whispered that humanity itself had changed, becoming something no longer recognizable. The word Deathwelders was spoken again, not as insult, but as warning. In the great cities of the Council, ordinary citizens began to ask dangerous questions. Why did the humans leave? What did we do to drive them away? And what happens if they come back? The Council tried to silence these voices, but the questions would not die. Too many remembered human allies, human traders, human soldiers who once stood at their side. Too many remembered promises broken by the Council. One night, across the communication channels of a frontier world, a voice was heard. It was human, calm, strong, and unmistakable. The voice did not threaten, did not rage. It simply said, "We warned you. You did not listen." Then it vanished into static. The message spread like fire, replayed again and again, feeding both fear and regret. Some races began to wonder if perhaps they had chosen the wrong side. Perhaps, when humanity returned, it would be better to stand with them than against them. The Council felt the ground slipping beneath their feet. They had ruled for centuries, certain of their control, but now even their allies looked at them with suspicion. Humanity's absence was tearing apart the galaxy more effectively than any war ever had. And still, the shadow grew. Weapons appeared where they should not exist. Ships moved in places no one should have access to. Messages whispered through the dark, each one carrying the same weight, the same unshakable truth. The humans were not gone. They were preparing. The galaxy listened, and for the first time, it was afraid. Whispers carried across every trade lane, every station, every port. They spoke of a new empire, one hidden beyond the Council's reach. An empire of humans who had abandoned the galaxy but had not abandoned power. Some called it a myth, a story to frighten children. But others believed, and those who believed whispered that the humans were offering protection, alliances, even sanctuary, but only to those who had treated them with respect in the past. The Council could not ignore the rumors any longer. They sent spies, quiet, skilled, and well-trained, to follow the trails of technology, to track the strange ships that appeared and vanished in the dark. None of them returned. Their signals went silent, their ships disappeared, and their names were added to lists that grew longer each week. Still, the Council pressed forward. More spies were sent, more fleets moved into the abandoned zones, hoping to uncover the truth. Each time, the result was the same. Silence. It was as if the humans allowed them to take the first step, and then erased them from existence. No wreckage, no distress calls, no proof. Just silence, deep and endless. But sometimes, a last message slipped through. A broken signal, a transmission half finished before it vanished into static. And every time, it was the same warning: they are watching us. For ordinary people, the fear became unbearable. Colonies close to the old human borders began to empty. Citizens fled deeper into council space, afraid that when the humans returned, they would not stop at silence. The council promised safety, but their words rang hollow. Their fleets were still strong, but strength meant nothing against an enemy that did not fight, an enemy that only watched. Among the alien factions, cracks began to form. Some races, once loyal to the council, now questioned their allegiance. If the humans truly had built an empire beyond the stars, perhaps it was wiser to join them rather than resist. Quiet rebellions began, secret deals whispered in shadows. The council tried to stamp them out, but the more they tried, the more suspicion grew. In the great halls of government, fear turned into desperation. Every meeting ended in arguments. Should they prepare for war, or should they beg for peace? Should they chase the humans into the dark, or should they close the borders and pretend nothing was happening? There were no answers, only fear. And still, the sightings continued. Ships of strange design hovered at the edges of systems, always at a distance, always vanishing before fleets could engage. Some said they were scouts. Others said they were messengers. But no one dared approach them. The silence stretched longer. The shadows grew darker. And the council began to realize what their spies already knew: humanity had not only left. Humanity had rebuilt. Humanity had risen in the dark, beyond their reach, beyond their control. And the galaxy waited, helpless, for what would come next. They laughed at humans once, now they begged for their return. The council chambers, once filled with arrogance and confidence, now echoed with fear and regret. The empty colonies, the silent ships, the whispers of a hidden empire, all of it weighed heavily on the rulers of the galaxy. Every debate ended the same way, with voices raised, with claws slamming against tables, with leaders demanding answers that no one could give. Without humanity, cracks spread through the foundations of galactic order. Trade slowed, entire economies faltered. Human workers, who had once carried burdens others would not, were gone. Human soldiers, who had stood in wars when others fled, were gone. Human merchants, who had brought life to empty stations, were gone. The galaxy had underestimated just how much it depended on them, until now. The citizens of the council worlds saw it too. Markets once filled with human goods now stood bare. Ships once manned by human crews now floated idle. Even the smallest colony felt their absence, because the humans had been everywhere, always present, always enduring. Now, there was only silence. Regret settled deep within the council. They remembered every ignored plea, every broken promise, every arrogant dismissal. The humans had asked for fairness, not power. They had asked for respect, not control. And every time, the council had turned them away. Now those choices returned like ghosts, haunting every meeting, every sleepless night. Then came the first sign of something more. Reports spoke of human fleets, massive, silent, and far stronger than anything the galaxy had seen, moving beyond the borders of charted space. No one dared approach them, but every sighting was the same. Ships larger, sleeker, with weapons that glowed faintly like the hearts of stars. They moved in silence, unstoppable and precise. The whispers grew. They are preparing. They are building. They are coming back. And then, one day, the waiting ended. In the grand chamber of the council, as leaders argued once again, a presence appeared. The air shimmered, and a figure stepped forward. A human. Clad in armor of a design no one recognized, carrying no weapons, walking with calm and steady steps. The guards moved instantly, weapons raised, but the figure only lifted a hand. Every weapon shut down at once, their power drained by an unseen force. The council froze. The chamber grew silent. The human envoy looked at them with eyes that held no fear, no anger, no kindness. Only indifference. You called us Deathwelders, the envoy said, his voice carrying across the chamber. You used us, mocked us, betrayed us. You thought we would beg forever. You were wrong. Some ambassadors tried to speak, but their voices cracked. The weight of the envoy's words pressed down harder than any weapon. We no longer need you, the human said simply. With those words, he turned and left. The guards dared not move, the leaders dared not speak. And when he vanished into the shadows beyond the chamber, the council finally understood the truth. Humanity had not returned for peace. Humanity had not returned for vengeance. Humanity had returned only to say that the galaxy no longer mattered. And the silence that followed was heavier than war. Shall I continue directly into Part 8, where humanity delivers their final farewell and reveals they have gone beyond the galaxy forever? You said. Part 8 without heading. ChatGPT said. The chamber remained silent long after the envoy was gone. No one dared breathe too loudly, as if the very air still carried the weight of his words. Leaders who had once boasted of their fleets, who had once spoken of humans as weak and expendable, now sat trembling in their seats. For the first time in centuries, the council felt powerless. Days turned into weeks, and the galaxy waited. But humanity did not strike. No fleets appeared to invade, no armies marched. Instead, strange signals spread across the stars, encrypted messages that no alien system could fully decode. Entire constellations flickered with faint, deliberate patterns of light. It was as if the humans were speaking to each other in a language no one else could hear. And then the ships came. Massive vessels, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, appeared at the edges of known space. They were not built for war alone, they were built for departure. Each one carried the power of a moving city, glowing with energy that bent the very fabric of space around them. Fleets gathered, hundreds strong, moving with unity and purpose. Observers watched from afar, afraid to get closer. The council dispatched fleets to follow, but every time they approached, their systems failed, their engines died, and they drifted helplessly until rescue came. The humans had no need to fight. They only needed to move forward, and nothing could stop them. At last, a final broadcast echoed across the galaxy. The same envoy appeared again, not in the council chamber this time, but across every communication channel, every world, every station. His voice was calm, steady, undeniable. We asked for respect. You gave us chains. We asked for trust. You gave us silence. We asked for peace. You gave us betrayal. He paused, his gaze piercing through every screen, every listening ear. We are done asking. Behind him, the massive fleets began to shimmer, engines igniting with light brighter than suns. Space itself seemed to bend, as if the humans were not merely traveling through the galaxy but leaving it entirely. You will remember this day, the envoy said. The day humanity walked away. And then, with a brilliance that outshone the stars, the human fleets vanished. Not into hyperspace. Not into wormholes. They vanished into somewhere else, beyond maps, beyond borders, beyond reach. The galaxy remained behind, hollow and silent. Worlds once loud with commerce grew quiet. Stations once alive with trade sat empty. Even the stars seemed colder, dimmer, as though they mourned the loss. The council gathered again, but there were no arguments this time. Only regret. They had believed themselves masters of the stars, yet they had driven away the one species that had held the galaxy together. And now, as the silence deepened, one truth became clear to all. Humanity was gone. And the galaxy would never recover.